Here's the preview of the number 1 seed Kansas versus number 4 seed Providence. Providence on average scores 71.8 points per game, while Kansas 78.7 points per game. But Providence allows 54 points per game, which is an edge to them, unlike Kansas when they allow 64 points per game. They're both pretty even on the glass, on rebounding. I mean, 37.6 for Providence per game and 37.8 rebounds per game for Kansas. Steals is an advantage and blocks is an advantage for Kansas. 6.4 steals per game, 4.1 blocks per game. Compared to Providence's 3.7 and 5 blocks per game and 5.1 for steals per game. Some players, leading scorers on Providence that you got to keep an eye on are Nate Watson, who's averages 13.5 points per game. Al Durham, which 13.3 points per game. Jared Bynum is 12.6 points per game. AJ Reeves is 9.9 points per game. Noah Horschler is 9.9 points per game. And Justin Manoa is 6.6 points per game. But Ed Crowell is 5.2 points per game. And just to add one more guy in the rotation that has played at least 28 games is Alan Breed, and he's 3.3 points per game. And I do believe Providence does match up with Kansas in terms of size, because Nate Watson's 6'10", 260 pounds, and Noah Horschler is 6'8", 220, so they really match up pretty good with Kansas. Obviously, Kansas's leading scorers are Ochai Agbaji, of course. I mean, he's one of the best players in the country here. 19.2 points per game. Christian Braun is 14.6 points per game. Jalen Wilson, 11 points per game. David McCormick, 10 points per game. Remy Martin, who's been on fire as of recently, 8.1 points per game. Dejon Harris, 5.4 points per game. Mitch Lightfoot, 4.7 points per game. Jaron Cullen Lance, 4 points per game. Yeah, and that's pretty much their rotation, unless you add KJ Adams, and that's 1.1 points per game. And Joseph Yesufu, and that's 2.3 points per game. But I tell you what, Kansas is 7-6 whenever they allow 70 or more points. While Providence is 8-3 whenever they allow 70 or more points. And by the way, on those Kansas losses, that's all their losses this year have been whenever they allow 70 or more. So I think the key is simple for Kansas. You got to not allow 70. Because all your losses this year have been 70 or more points. You got to shut down the best guys on their team, obviously. And same goes for Providence. And you got to limit the shooters on both teams need to do that as well, and limit the transition points, fast break points, points off turnovers, second chance points, especially in a highly contested game. And I know Kansas in the past has dropped a game in the NCAA tournament, and they haven't only won one national title under Bill Self, which is the same number as Scott Drew, for example, and he did it in his first trip to the Final Four. I mean, so really, if Providence scores 70 or more, I think they're in really good shape, and same goes for Kansas as well. But it will be interesting what really happens. And I think, of course, we know defensively Providence owns the edge, and Kansas doesn't. But offensively, it's the exact opposite. This is why this is an intriguing matchup right here, because I could very well see a 4-over-1 right here, and Providence is not really a Cinderella by any means because they're not a double-digit seed, but they're looking to try to get to an Elite 8. And same goes for Kansas as a 1 seed. I wouldn't be shocked, and I know either way, but I know Kansas is favored by at least, they're favored by 7.5, I believe. If memory serves me correct. And they have a higher winning percentage, 78.5% winning percentage right now for Kansas, but 7.5 points for Kansas, and when they're favored by. Obviously, offensively, you got to execute. You can't turn the ball over. You got to make more shots. I mean, you got to hit some threes in this game if you can, because the three ball can be a difference in this game. And you got to get some second chance points, fast break points, points off turnovers as well. Anyways, I want to break down and give some keys to the game for both teams in this highly contested matchup here. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get me up to 400 subscribers or more by the end of this year.